Right. So welcome everyone to our deep dive, into International Women's Day.
Yeah,
And I know most people think of it as,
right.
a day for flowers, maybe some, nice social media posts.
Definitely.
Mm,
Yeah.
But we're going to really kind of dig in here and
Mhm.
uncover why it's so much more.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's got such a fascinating history.
Yeah, it does.
And it really is rooted in, real struggles for change and demands for, a better world.
Right. So our deep dive this time is going to take us back to the streets of New York City.
Okay.
Back in 1908. Can you imagine 15,000 women
Hmm.
marching, demanding better working conditions,
Yeah.
equal pay,
Right.
things that were just radical ideas at the time?
I mean, it really is incredible to think about their courage. Like
Yeah.
they were on the front lines fighting for rights that we
Yeah.
take for granted today.
Absolutely. And their fight, it wasn't just some small thing.
Right.
It really helped fuel this global movement.
Mm-hmm.
And just a few years later, at a conference in Copenhagen, the idea for International Women's Day, it was born.
Yeah.
But it took until 1977
Oh, wow.
for the UN to actually officially recognize it.
That's a long journey for a day that you think, would be pretty readily accepted.
Yeah, it really makes you appreciate how much work
Yeah.
and persistence it took for these voices to actually, be heard on that global stage.
Yeah, absolutely. And it really underscores, I think, the significance of the day and why it's so important to continue to mark it and celebrate it.
Yeah.
But let's talk about why it's still so important.
Okay.
I mean, yes, some countries have their, beautiful traditions,
Yeah.
the mimosa flowers in Italy.
Yeah.
But beyond the celebrations, the day really highlights the ongoing fight for equality.
So we're talking like the pay gap.
Oh, absolutely. Equal pay for equal work.
Yeah.
Fair representation in leadership and politics, and
Right.
even, basic safety from violence.
Wow. And it's crazy to think that these issues were first raised over a century ago. And we're still talking about them today.
Yeah.
I mean, and the way the day is observed even varies across the globe.
It does.
Like it's an official holiday in places like Russia and China, but then you've got places like Turkey where it's more driven by activists and NGOs.
Right. And that contrast is really interesting, I think, because it tells us that, while the idea of celebrating women's achievements, it's globally recognized the level of actual progress on gender equality.
Yeah.
It differs greatly.
It really makes you think about how much, our cultural and political contexts shape how we even understand gender roles.
It does. And this leads us, I think, nicely into this year's theme,
Okay.
digital equality,
Ooh, interesting.
which focuses on technology as a tool for empowering women.
It is fascinating. But at the same time, I kind of wonder, is it really a solution?
Right.
Or could it actually make existing inequalities even worse?
Yeah, that's the big question.
You think about the digital divide, lack of access.
Well, lack of digital literacy.
Exactly. So does technology bridge the gap or does it actually widen it?
Right. And that's what we really need to dig into.
Yeah, it's almost like that spirit of that march in 1908.
Right.
It's now being carried into this digital age.
Exactly. The fight continues, but the battlefield has shifted.
Yeah. So what does digital equality actually look like?
Right. What are the signs that we're moving in the right direction? And are we...
Yeah, it can't just be about, having a smartphone or something like that. It's got to be about using technology to actually create real change.
Exactly. And that's where things, I think, get really interesting. And that's where our sources really provide some insightful example.
Okay, so what kind of examples are we talking about? Because I am definitely intrigued now.
Well, one example is the rise of these online platforms that are providing women with access to education and skills training.
Oh, wow.
Like coding boot camps or online courses that are specifically, targeted towards women who want to break into the tech industry.
So it's not just about consuming technology, but it's about giving them the tools to actually create it.
Exactly.
And shape it. That's amazing.
And then there's also the incredible impact of social media.
Right.
It's become this powerful tool for women to connect,
Yeah.
build communities, and raise awareness about issues they care about.
Yeah. I mean, think about the Me Too movement.
Exactly.
Social media played such a huge role
Huge, yeah.
in amplifying those voices and bringing about change.
Absolutely. And beyond raising awareness, social media also allows, women entrepreneurs to reach a global audience,
Yeah.
market their products and services, build successful businesses.
So it's like leveling the playing field in a way that wasn't possible before.
Exactly. Location, those traditional barriers to entry become much less significant.
Amazing.
But of course, it's not all sunshine and roses.
Right.
Our sources also point out the dark side of the digital world.
Oh, okay.
Cyberbullying, online harassment,
Yeah.
the spread of misinformation. These things can disproportionately impact women.
Yeah. That was a very sobering thought. So
Yeah.
digital equality.
Yeah.
It's not just about access
Right.
and opportunity. It's also about safety and making sure that women have an equal voice without being afraid of, being silenced or attacked.
Exactly. Creating those safe and inclusive online spaces is crucial.
Yeah.
It's about fostering that digital environment where women can freely express themselves,
Right.
share their ideas, engage in discussions without fear of harassment.
And that responsibility really falls on all of us, right?
It does.
Tech companies, policymakers,
Individuals,
everybody.
Yeah, we all have a role to play
Yeah.
in shaping a more equitable and inclusive digital world.
Okay.
But speaking of, individual actions,
Mhm.
International Women's Day isn't just about acknowledging challenges,
Right.
It's also about celebrating achievements.
Oh, absolutely. It's about recognizing all the amazing things that women have done
Yeah.
and continue to do.
And those achievements go far beyond breaking glass ceilings in corporate boardrooms.
Mhm.
It's about celebrating the everyday triumphs of women in all walks of life.
Yeah, I love that. From scientists to teachers,
Artists,
activists.
so many.
It's about all the contributions that they make
Yeah.
that are often, underappreciated.
Yeah. And I think that's what makes International Women's Day so powerful.
Mm.
It's that moment to pause
Reflect.
and reflect and celebrate, the resilience, the strength,
Right.
the brilliance of women everywhere.
It's a day that holds both, a call to action,
Yeah.
but also a moment of celebration.
I love that.
Yeah, it reminds us that the fight for equality is ongoing, but it also allows us to, appreciate how far we've come
Right.
and to draw inspiration from those who came before us.
Okay, so we've gone through the origins.
Right.
We've talked about the fight for equality and the challenges and the potential of this digital empowerment.
Yeah. Is there anything else our listeners should consider as we're kind of wrapping up this deep dive?
Well, our sources don't give us like a step-by-step guide, but they do highlight the power of collective action.
Right. And remember that strike in 1908?
Yeah.
That was thousands of women coming together
Right.
to really ignite that change.
That's that strength in numbers.
Yeah.
And that theme kind of echoes, throughout the history of the women's rights movement.
Yeah. So maybe the first step is actually recognizing that we're not alone in this.
Right. There are countless individuals and organizations dedicated to this.
Yeah.
And there's always room for more voices and more support.
That's really empowering to hear because it means that even small actions
Right.
can contribute to something much bigger.
Exactly. Starting a conversation with your friends, supporting a women-owned business,
Right.
volunteering for an organization,
Finding ways to integrate the spirit of the day into everyday life.
Yeah. Exactly. Make it more than just a day on the calendar.
Yeah.
It's about, challenging our own biases, amplifying women's voices,
Right.
and actively creating opportunities for women and girls in our communities.
Yeah. And as we're navigating this increasingly digital world,
Right.
it's about making sure that women are not only included, but empowered to lead the way
Absolutely.
in shaping that future.
Yeah.
That's equitable for everybody.
A future that's, more equitable and just for everyone.
I think we've given our listeners a lot to think about today.
I think so.
But before we sign off, I want to leave them with one final thought-provoking question. As we, rely more and more on technology, is closing that digital gender gap going to be the key to actually achieving broader equality?
That's a big one.
And what role can each of us play in that?
It really makes you think about how connected the digital world and the real world are becoming,
Yeah.
and it makes you realize that to achieve real gender equality, it can't just be, one approach. We need lots of things happening.
Yeah, so it's not just about changing policies and institutions,
Right.
but it's also about changing mindsets, right?
Absolutely challenging those ingrained stereotypes. So
Yeah.
creating a culture where women and girls feel empowered to, reach their full potential, both on and offline.
We need a society where everybody, no matter their gender,
Right.
has equal access to education, the freedom to pursue their passions,
Yeah,
and the opportunity to, share their talents with the world.
absolutely.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into International Women's Day, I'm hoping our listeners feeling a sense of hope and possibility.
Me too.
We've seen how just a single day
Yeah.
can spark these global movements, how technology can be a tool for empowerment, and how even small actions
Right.
can contribute to that bigger change.
It's been an amazing conversation.
It has been.
Going from the streets of New York City to this vast digital landscape, we've really seen so many layers of International Women's Day and why it's still so relevant today.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And as we move forward, let's all remember that this fight for equality,
Yeah.
it's not just a one-day thing.
No, it's every day.
It's a continuous commitment to building a more just and equitable world for everybody.
Absolutely well said.
So let's carry the spirit of this day with us every single day,
Yes, every day.
not just on March 8th.
I love it.
Thanks for joining us, everyone, on this deep dive.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
Until next time, keep learning, keep questioning, and keep pushing for a better world.